Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot and Media. Dominica has suffered widespread damage from Hurricane Maria. The Category 5 hurricane blew into the island with sustained winds of 160 miles per hour. CNN interviewed Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who gave an account of being at the complete mercy of the Category 5 hurricane.
The Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, joins me now on the line. Thank you, sir, for talking with us at this very difficult time. We know that you are in a safe location right now, but there were some very scary moments at one point there. Talk to us about what happened, what you went through.
Well, just to say that the country has been devastated from, if I'm to go by the strength of the wind and the heavy rain we received. As you said, personally, I was affected. The roof or the residence caved in because of the strength of the wind. But I was taken on the safe ground by the police officers. Thank God. We're just waiting really for daybreak to venture out to do an assessment of the damage. Our first order of business will be search and rescue to ensure that we can account for every single citizen and resident who was on island during this really devastating hurricane.
And are you receiving any reports at this time of the extent of damage done and, of course, any possible casualties?
Well, we haven't gotten any word yet on casualties because no one really can go out at this time. But I'm getting reports of lots of damage to buildings, private dwellings, and also business places. So, as I said, once we can venture out, we will do a complete assessment.
And Hurricane Maria is on course to score a direct hit on Puerto Rico, the first in 85 years. Puerto Rico's governor has declared a state of emergency. More in this report from the USA Today network.
450 shelters ready to go. We had plenty of food and water. We were able to communicate the need for people to go to these shelters and recognize the danger that their lives were facing during this event. This storm is shaping up to be more dangerous, shaping up to have more water, shaping up to be slower, bringing higher levels of tide to Puerto Rico. It will essentially devastate most of the island. It will provoke massive flooding in flooding-prone regions. And what we want to make sure, as we did with Irma, is that our priority is to save lives. My top concern is people staying at flooding areas. We're evoking all of the powers of law to mobilize these people and to move them with emergencies, but our laws have some limitations relative to other states in that regards. And making sure people that have houses that are vulnerable to higher winds also recognize that they're in danger and that they have to leave. In our view, it's been phenomenal. I have to say that the team over here has been great. And from the top down.
And Hurricane Maria is now barreling towards the nearby U.S. Virgin Islands. The nearby islands of Martinique has also declared a maximum level alert, while another French island, Guadeloupe, ordered evacuations. Hurricane warnings are in place in the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. Warnings are also in effect for St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, and St. Lucia, while hurricane watches are in place for St. Martin and Anguilla. Maria is moving roughly along the same track as Irma and the hurricane that devastated the region earlier this month. Just playing to the gallery. Very impressive. Those are some of the comments used to describe PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips's presentation at the party's conference on Sunday. Minutes after his first conference as party leader, Dr. Phillips started facing a mixture of praises and criticisms. TVJ's Herman Green has been speaking with some analysts.
The reactions so far have been mixed, from splendid to expected and lacking. Dr. Peter Phillips' first conference presentation as leader of the PNP continues to be scrutinized and criticized. For public commentator Marvin Henry, the party leader's presentation followed an all-too-familiar script. For Mr. Henry, Dr. Phillips played to the script well, ensuring that party followers were riled up and motivated. In spite of this predictable script, however, he believes Dr. Phillips touched on the areas that needed to be pointed out.
He has tackled the big areas of the economy and indicating that the government has not performed very well with the economy. He has tackled crime and he has laid out some plans for returning to government and leading a better government in Jamaica.
He questions the arguments, however, noting that the party was in government just 18 months earlier, struggling with the issues of both these areas. He notes that the International Monetary Fund, IMF, was in Jamaica just last week, making the same assessment of the current administration. Doing well, but public sector bill needs more focus. Likewise for crime.
Crime as measured by the murder rate has been escalating for 40 years across a number of security ministers, including Dr. Phillips himself. The sort of shouting disaster and breakdown with the current administration is again playing to the gallery and standard procedure. The murder rate has spiked, that is true. To mark this down to large failures on the part of an 18-month-old administration is doing a bit much.
Political analyst Shalman Scott, however, gives a different assessment. He believes with years of experience in politics, Dr. Phillips' presentation was impressive.
He would have brought to that conference yesterday a tremendous amount of experience, and that came through in the kind of issues that he raised.
He believes that in addition to crime and the economy, his mention of other areas that are currently raising anxiety among Jamaicans skillfully struck the right notes, for which he gives him a B+.
Let us look at our architects and engineers and those allied skills and the kind of utterances that are coming out of the Institute of Engineer and other groupings. He has addressed that.
Despite their contradicting assessments, both analysts agree that having rallied supporters, the real measurement will be in the upcoming by-elections and the subsequent general election. Herman Green, TVJ News.
A meeting was scheduled this morning with the political ombudsman and representatives of the People's National Party to discuss concerns about announcements of a $626 million road rehabilitation program in St. Mary.
Well, looking at it in the broader context of an election, a by-election likely to be held in Southeast St. Mary, the concern is that the code of conduct is not breached and that in the way that the work is conducted and the circumstances under which the work was decided, that we would be looking to see whether there are any breaches of the code. In the meantime, we are expecting to meet on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock with the candidates and with representatives of their parties.
The country's airspace is again open to 24-hour service. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, JCAA, says this started at 7 o'clock this morning. The restoration comes almost 2 weeks after lightning damaged the radar communication and equipment at the agency. In a statement this morning, the JCAA says it informed stakeholders of this development last night. In a subsequent interview with TVJ News, JCAA Director General Nari William Singh said operations have not been fully restored.
In need of continued work, and so it's going to be an ongoing process, and we continue this, but we are able to provide this additional service. We have sourced some parts and also some additional expertise. In fact, we have some of our manufacturers' representatives on site as we speak.
He says the full impact of the disruption to air services is not yet known. JCAA is now operating on the new air navigational system, however, training is still ongoing. There is a crisis in a section of the nation's justice system this afternoon. Lawyers representing more than a dozen policemen charged by Indicom have withdrawn their services over the non-payment of millions of dollars owed to them in legal fees by the government. The attorneys are owed $114 million. In a letter Monday addressed to the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, the lawyers said they were no longer retained due to the non-payment of legal fees. The Police Federation has also complained to the authorities about the constant delay in making the payment and the likely impact on the morale of members of the force. The Federation has been unable to pay the attorneys as the Legal Defense Fund has been exhausted due to the volume of police cases before the courts. Cabinet was expected to discuss the matter in February, but so far there has been no word on whether the payments will be made. There has been a surprise twist to the appointment of the new board of the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA. The Ministry of National Security is now indicating that no board has been appointed. In a statement this morning, National Security Minister Robert Montague said Cabinet met last night to discuss the appointment of the board. However, he said no decision was made. Mr. Montague says the release sent out yesterday by his ministry indicating that the National Security Advisor, Major General Anthony Anderson, would lead a 5-member board approved by Cabinet was done prematurely. The National Security Minister says he has left the island to attend an international conference, and when he returns, there will be further deliberations by Cabinet. And in sports, many-time champions Jamaica College prevailed against Papine High 2-1 in their Isaflo Manning Cup match at Jamaica College on Monday. JC had an early scare as Shaquille Webb put Papine ahead from the penalty spot in a 21st minute, a lead they held until the halftime break. But that was not enough to hold off a strong Jamaica College who came out into the second half blazing, getting 2 goals to earn 3 points. A strike from JC's Norman Campbell in the 68th minute had both teams locked at 1-1. JC extended their lead not long after, earning a penalty which was converted by Tyreek McGee in the 75th minute.
Basically one shot to the goal, and they had us 1-0. We're still missing some chances, and we're not having that clinical striker as yet, or even that player who wants up front as yet. But I think we're moving the ball. Probably first half was a little bit too slow. Second half we utilized the quick play and we used the wide areas much more. We were able to get 2 goals. We got a lot of chances, but I said I'm happy for the 3 points.
Meanwhile, Wilma's boys' winning run was snapped as they were held to a 0-0 draw in the Group A encounter against Tivoli Gardens. Wilma's were dropping points for the first time this season after winning their first 3 matches.
I was a little bit surprised that the second half, I don't think we get 20 minutes worth of game because almost every single 5 minutes and Tivoli player would go down, take treatment for 2.5 minutes. So the game kind of just gets scrapped in the end.
We wanted 3 points, but we went up with a draw, so we are comfortable with the draw in preparing for the rest of the games that are coming.
Elsewhere, Bridgeport High were held 0-0 by their Mona High in their Group B contest, while St. Andrew Technical High are now table toppers after they slammed Donald Quarry 5-0. In other games, Calabar continued their free-flowing season with a 5-1 victory over Campion College, while Charlie Smith returned to winning ways, blanking Eltham 2-0, and Jonathan Grant stopped Cedar Grove High 2-0. Also on the day, Kingston College carried on their good start to the season, hitting 4 past Greater Portmore for a 4-1 scoreline. And elsewhere, Excelsior High were 3-0 winners over Spanish Town. Pembroke Hall stopped Innswood 2-1, while Haile Selassie dropped Kingston at 5-0. And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.